All right, welcome to episode 147, the Charm City Birdwatch Podcast special Easter edition of the show, recording this on Sunday morning. Got a lot to get into here today as far as the Orioles season is underway, but also some Terps news, some transfers coming to Maryland, one player already leaving Maryland, and some big news regarding Mark Turgeon. Plenty to talk about on episode 147. Before we get rolling, do want to tell you guys about this event coming up with the Maryland SPCA from April 12th to the 17th. It's right around the corner. You can join the Maryland SPCA for their virtual festival for the animals. It's the doggone best way to support your community. You can raise money to save homeless pets and keep families together by joining a fundraising team, or you can create your own fundraising team with family, friends, neighbors, whoever. Every dollar raised is going to give sick and injured pets a second chance, and it's going to support families in Baltimore with pet food assistance, vet care, and more. When you register for just $29, you'll also receive a festival t-shirt and a commemorative medal. So go ahead, you can sign up right now. Do it today. Sign up at mdspca.org/birdwatch. Again, mdspca.org/birdwatch. All right, busy week, very busy week. Baseball is finally back. We had opening day, a delayed opening day, supposed to be Thursday. Everyone in Birdland was extremely ramped up as always. Wake up bright and early on Thursday morning, crank the John Denver. Thank God I'm a country boy on repeat all day. Anticipation for opening day, a full 162 games. Last year when baseball returned, it was a great feeling. It was a terrible long summer without sports. Then the NBA came back. Baseball came back. It was such a joyous moment. But now this is we're back as close as we've been to normal since all of this started. And, there's fans, some fans in the stands, not full capacity, but to have people in attendance, to be there to watch, and we're playing a full 162, it's extremely exciting, extremely encouraging. And with the way we're heading, perhaps at some point later this summer, with it being such a long baseball season, July, August, September, these final months of the season, bigger crowds, more people in attendance for the playoffs, maybe packed houses, that would be, or close to it, that would be exceptional stuff. So you can't not be excited about this. And even for a team like the Orioles, they could be the worst team in the history of baseball. We would still be excited for them to come back because it's just that big of a deal here in Baltimore. And again, if there was nothing going on with this team, if it was a bunch of no-names, if they were the worst team of all time, we'd still be exciting, but that's not the case with this team. They're not going to make the playoffs. We know that. They're going to be a bad team in comparison to the rest of the league, but they'll have their moments. As we've seen the past 2 years since, Brandon Hyde, Mike Elias have taken over this new era of Orioles baseball, there's been plenty of exciting moments. Even in a god-awful season like 2019, there were still exceptional moments that year. This team, no matter how bad it is going to give us fun moments. And for the 2021 season, we are just overloading on storylines. And right at the forefront has got to be Trey Mancini. Was out last year. Short season, still, he was out last year recovering from colorectal cancer, finding out in spring training last year and then realizing, all right, I'm going to be shut down. Just a couple days later, this pandemic hits. Baseball is put on hold. Spring training is put on the back burner. We're all kind of sitting and waiting for months and months and months. What's going to happen with the season? Trey's trying to recover from this. He's trying to go through chemotherapy, but we're in the middle of this pandemic and restrictions on hospitals especially are super tight, are super, high alert. And that makes things even harder. He has to go into these treatments by himself, no friends, no family. No one can be there with him. It's just an incredible story for him to come back from this in, at the speed that he did. And then, to be back, to be ready by spring training this year, to play in that first spring training game in Sarasota, to get a great reception from the crowd, a standing ovation. The Pittsburgh Pirates, the visiting team, gave him that moment to, salute the crowd, to thank everyone, to enjoy that moment. And he picks up a base hit in that same at-bat. Just, that was great, but it was spring training. And we all knew that the big moment and the real emotional moment was going to be when he stepped into the box for that first at-bat on opening day. Would have been great if your first game's at Camden Yards, but I know the reception's going to be just as good. No, it's going to be even better. It's not going to be just as good. It's going to be 100 times better next Thursday when the Orioles open up at Camden Yards, and a limited crowd, won't be a full house. But again, to have people there to welcome Trey back to the game is just, how do you not love that? It's one of those things that makes you a little misty-eyed. Someone's cutting onions, and you can't say enough. You cannot say enough. This was something that you go back to March of last year when we found out about this. And I remember talking about it on the podcast, and, you try to, you have an optimistic outlook on this because, Trey's a young guy. He's an athlete. He's in good shape. They caught this early enough that it was treatable, and, he had to go through chemo and everything, which isn't easy by any means, but there was a sense that he's going to be all right. And there's no guarantee that he plays again, but with his mindset and his, determination and his personality, thinking optimistically, knew that he was going to come back. Maybe not this soon. Maybe it would have taken a little bit longer. We don't know. But I remember saying at the time and trying to remain optimistic about it and saying, man, what a great moment it's going to be at the start of next year. Whether the Orioles open up on the road, at home, that first at-bat for Trey Mancini and the crowd to give him that reception. And here we are over a year later, that has come to fruition. And how can you not be romantic about baseball? And that's just storyline number one. I mean, that's just one of a long list here. Certainly the most emotional, but the storylines don't stop. How about John Means, or John Means business, as we should say? Last year, he was penciled in to be the Orioles' opening day starter in the shortened season. In the weeks leading up to opening day, he was going through what was described as a dead arm, fatigue. He just wasn't in condition to pitch, so he had to miss the first, month. Maybe not a month. He was out for a good couple weeks to start the season, and then it took him a little while to get ramped up when he did come back. But, to be penciled in as that opening day starter is such an honor for any pitcher in this league. I don't care if you're Clayton Kershaw and you've been doing this for 15 years. I don't care who you are. To be penciled in every year as that opening day starter, it means something every single year. I don't care how many times you've done it in the past, whether it's your first time, your 100th time doing it, it's always special. But for a guy like John Means, who prior to the 2019 season was contemplating, life outside of baseball, was contemplating a career path outside of baseball. He was a long shot. He went from a long shot to make the opening day roster with the Orioles in 2019 to just sneaking in with that last spot. He was up for debate with some other guys, probably bullpen guys. Who are we going to keep? Who's going to get sent down to AAA to start the year? John Means ends up getting picked. He starts the year at the club, gets some relief appearances. All of a sudden, he gets a starting appearance, and by the time we reach the midseason mark, guess who's representing the Orioles at the All-Star game? It's John Means. That alone is a great story in baseball. But John Means doesn't stop there. finishes 2019 with a great overall season, gets some Rookie of the Year votes in the American League. So he's going to come back in 2020. He's earned that right. All-Star, Rookie of the Year votes. Orioles' best starter from 2019 came out of nowhere. Now he gets the opportunity to start on opening day. It's taken away by an injury. That sucks, It sucks, but it's one game. And for a guy like John Means, it's always about the big picture. So he comes back and he's getting ramped up, overcoming this dead arm, getting up to speed, getting the inning total up. And then his father passes away. And, again, we're in this pandemic and, the frequency at which you're seeing your family has decreased for most people. That's never easy, but then in the times we were facing last year, it becomes even harder. And he took his time off, and rightfully so, but he ends up returning to the game. And you know what? That last month or those last handful of starts for John Means in 2020 were outstanding. Some of the best in his in his very young career so far. You come back here in 2021. It goes back to what I was saying earlier, new beginnings, full 162 games. There's fans in the stands. We're starting to feel like normal again. And John Means gets that nod to be the opening day starter again. This time, he's healthy. He goes out there, and not just a good start, not just a great start, an outstanding start, probably the best start of his career, comes on opening day. This great, joyous, triumphant moment for him, for this team. 7 innings, 1 hit in the very first at-bat of the game, no runs allowed. Outstanding performance from John Means. That is Cy Young caliber pitching. Question is, can he keep it rolling? Because down the stretch last year, had these great starts, closed out the year with a lot of momentum. Then we go into the offseason. Great first start of this year. Can he keep it going? I would love to see that. And, what was really great about this was the fact that Brandon Hyde left him in. And it was a close game. I mean, the Orioles end up winning the game 3-0. Not a blowout by any means. It was a close game when John Means left the game. The Orioles were only up 2-0. The pitch count's getting up there. Usually with these first starts of the season, managers will, be a little more quick to pull guys maybe around the 80, 85 pitch mark. And then you throw in the fact that it's a close game. A lot of things are adding up to say, hey, maybe you pull John Means here in the 6th inning. But no, he ends up getting to pitch 7 innings and finishes with a pitch count of 97. He had some quick at-bats. He really did. He got some guys out on 1 or 2 pitches. Even his longest at-bats weren't that long. So really glad Brandon Hyde left him in. He could have pulled him to, save him and make sure he doesn't overexert himself in that first start. And we've talked about this, leading up to the season. After playing just 60 games last year, now you come back and we're playing a full 162 again. And that might create some problems. We might see some injuries in this first month of the season. We might see more, little strains here and there, muscle cramps, more muscular injuries, I'll say, not so much serious structural injuries or broken bones or torn, ACL, stuff like that, but more, muscular injuries and stuff like that. And that, especially in pitchers with their arm. I think that is going to be something that we see quite often here in the month of April, even May, to start the 2021 season. So again, Brandon Hyde could have easily pulled him after 6. And it ends up being one of the best starts for an Orioles pitcher in opening day in team history. I won't go as far as to say the best. There's been some really great ones. Rick Sutcliffe to open Camden Yards, 25 years ago or so, that first game at Camden Yards, he pitched a shutout, a complete game shutout. We know Jim Palmer has pitched a couple shutouts in opening day. So this is maybe not the best in Orioles history, but it's certainly up there. Easily the best start of John Means' career, and just a great momentum starter for the year. You want to jumpstart your season, this long 162-game marathon. No better way to jumpstart that than with a 7-inning, one-hit performance by John Means. And the way the bullpen followed him up. Tanner Scott throws a good, clean 8th inning, strikes out 2, gave up 2 walks, but gets out of the jam. And then Cesar Valdez. This leads us to another storyline. At the ripe age of 36, been playing in professional baseball, on and off in some capacity for over 15 years or something like that. This is the first time he's made an opening day roster in his career at the age of 36. And we knew what he did last year. He's not throwing gas out there. He's throwing some really slow balls. But he's got a really crafty changeup that just these hitters last year, you watch him down the stretch last year when he was throwing all these scoreless innings and all these clean innings, and you're saying, when are they going to catch up to this changeup? When are they going to finally figure this out? Because this guy, look, 35, 36 years old, he's got no velocity. We give him that. He's got some craftiness, but in today's major leagues, when are they going to figure it out? And they didn't last year. And we start this year, and I'm still saying it. When are they going to figure it out? They have to at some point, right? Well, I mean, we've only got 2 innings of Valdez so far this year, but 2 innings, 2 saves for the young man, Cesar Valdez. He gets a save on opening day. He gets a save on Saturday. 2 innings of work for him so far in 2021. No hits allowed, 1 hit, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, no runs, 2 saves for him to open the season. And that storyline alone is fantastic. It's hilarious. A lot of fun to watch this guy pitch. And I don't know how long this is going to last. Just from a stamina standpoint, that's one thing. Does he have the stamina for a full 162? You also have what I was just talking about. When are the hitters going to figure him out? When are they going to sit on this changeup and camp on it? Let's just enjoy this for what it is, by all means. But one of the things we were wondering while we're on the subject of the closer and Valdez was who was going to be the closer to start the year. Hunter Harvey, he goes to the IL. He's on the injured list to start the year again. If he's healthy, realistically, he's your guy. He's the guy that you're going to give the nod to in the 9th inning with the game on the line. That velocity, that punch-out stuff that he has, coming close to triple digits sometimes on the speed gun, he's got the stuff to be a major league closer. So we were wondering who's going to get the nod to be the closer. Last year, Cole Sulser got the nod to start the year. He had some moments that were good, some moments that were really bad. Just inconsistency would be the best way to describe it. Tanner Scott had a tremendous season last year. He was certainly a candidate to get some opportunities, but it appears that he will be a setup man pitching the 8th inning on Friday. And it could still very well be a committee. Again, depending on how often Orioles find themselves in these close games where they need to throw someone out there for a save situation. I think the fact that Hyde threw Valdez out there on back-to-back days, in these a 2-run game, a 3-run game, to throw him out there and close things out, I think that's very telling. So obviously that'll be one of the big storylines we keep our eyes on. And just clean up here on Orioles stuff. They're 2-0. They're going to get started here in playing their Sunday game in about an hour. So wish I could comment on the entire series, but they do have a series win to start the year, just like they did last year, opened up the year with a series win in Boston. We'll see if they can get the sweep today. Other performances, Matt Harvey, the Dark Knight, gets his first start yesterday on Saturday. Goes 4 2/3 innings pitched, 6 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, only 1 walk. Finishes, gets pulled after 86 pitches. So we'll see, encouraging first start for Matt Harvey. We'll see. He's certainly going to get some more starts under his belt here to start the season. We'll see his inning total gets ramped up a little bit more. The leash will be a little bit longer, but I liked what I saw out of Matt Harvey yesterday. Worked himself out of some jams early on and just looked like he was in control. And that's the key thing here, because you've watched Matt Harvey these past couple seasons where he's just been awful, for a lack of a better term. He just didn't have that command. He didn't have that presence of the guy he was to start his career with the Mets. So, second chances here, or third chances, whatever you want to call it, with the Baltimore Orioles. He's the Game 2 starter. Only goes 4 2/3 innings, but you look at the greater context here, I think it's a nice start, and I'm really excited to see what he does in his next start and going from there. Adam Plutko was an addition. The Orioles picked him up at the end of spring training. He comes in after Harvey. He's a guy that could be a starting candidate at some point this year, but looks like he's going to open the year as a long relief type of guy. He throws 2 1/3 innings pitched, 1 hit allowed, no runs, 2 strikeouts. I like that a lot. He gets credited with the win. Nice job for Plutko there. Dylan Tate, another young arm I'm excited about in this bullpen, pitches a clean 8th inning with a strikeout. And then Valdez, we already talked about him, closes things out, picks up his second save of the season. Orioles are 2-0. How can you not love it? We're not declaring World Series or anything like that, but let's enjoy the ride. And that's the way it's been the last couple of years. Just enjoy the ride and enjoy the moments, enjoy the storylines. We've already seen an abundance of them so far. I know there will be plenty more to come. So we will be talking about all of it on the podcast throughout the summer. That's it for Orioles. Let's talk a little bit of Terps here, because it's been a busy 24 hours for Mr. Mark Turgeon. After the Terps get eliminated from the tournament a couple weeks back, I said on this podcast, good finish to the season. You won a Big Ten tournament game to punch your ticket to the big dance. You win your first round matchup against UConn. Not a huge upset, but it is an upset. UConn was a higher ranked team, not just by AP votes, but by analytics. They were a better team across the board than the Terps. That was a really nice win. And you run into an Alabama team that's shooting the ball at an insane rate. Even if they weren't shooting the ball that insane, they probably still would have beaten the Terps, but it is what it is. For 2020, 2021, not a bad way to go out. Not a bad season at all. I was satisfied with this season alone. Given everything else that happened, the roster, the shape it was in to start the year, all the COVID stuff, I was satisfied with the way things ended this year. But when it comes to this topic of Mark Turgeon and his future, it's not about 1 year in particular. It's about the entire resume. And this is a hot debate. This is something that we've talked about ad nauseum on this podcast. It's something that's talked about just nonstop in this fan base. It's an annoying conversation to have. I think that's something, no matter what side you're on, you can agree. It is one of the most annoying conversations for this fan base and all of sports, really, I might argue. We know what it is. I'm not going to waste your time. 1 Sweet 16, 10 years, 1 Big Ten title in 10 years. He's kept the team relevant. At no point in this 10 years has Maryland fallen off the map. At no point in this 10 years has Maryland had a scandal as far as basketball is concerned. They've gotten good recruits. There's been excitement generated around this program, but the end result has been very lackluster for the most part. Extremely lackluster. So there's the resume, in short. Some good, some bad. You decide, is that enough to keep a guy? Is that enough or is that not enough? You say, let's move on. I myself am in the camp of let's move on. But I say this term a lot. Context is important. Context is the most important thing. And while at first glance, this offseason might seem like the perfect time to move on from Mark Turgeon, if we look at the financial aspect of things, maybe not so much. let's remember, after the Maryland football scandal a couple years ago, absolute tragedy, Jordan McNair passing away, the lingering effects that has had on this athletics department. You know, you have to move on from a head coach, but he had no buyout. So you're paying this guy the rest of his contract. You bring in a new head coach, Mike Loxley. You're paying both of them. And I don't know the full details. I don't know when this, Durkin and his contract is done. But as it stands right now, you are a Big Ten school paying 2 football coaches. And that is not cheap. That is not cheap at all. And you're paying Mark Turgeon is up there as probably your next biggest contract. He also doesn't have a buyout. There is no clean exit to drop Mark Turgeon. So he, as it stands now, 2 years left on his deal. So he's obviously looking for an extension, because in the college recruiting world, if you're going to go out there and you're going to be recruiting and you want a chance to bring guys in, they want to come play for a coach they know is going to be there, that has job security. No one's going to agree to play for a coach that's on the hot seat. That's just a fact. So Turgeon wants his extension because it's going to make recruiting viable for him. It's going to make transfers coming here viable. We'll get to that in a second. The school may be a little hesitant because, again, the resume. This might be a good time to move on. But we can't afford to buy him out. And if we don't give him the extension, he might just pack up and leave. And then at that point, we lose out on this pretty good recruiting class that we have coming in for 2021. And we have no chance of getting transfers. So it's a tough spot to be. But as I had said in the past, unless you're a blue blood school or a fringe blue blood, transitioning from one coach to another, there's going to be no short-term success with that move. Again, we're talking blue bloods here. You could change a coach. Things will be all right. The stigma of the program of itself will allow recruits to be flocking there. Most recently, you look at a Michigan. Move on. John Beilein goes to the NBA. Juwan Howard comes in. Immediate success for Juwan Howard. The program's legacy has something to do with that. I'm not taking anything away from Howard. He's a good coach. He's a good recruiter. But that's not common. Most times, a guy's got to come in and he's going to be coming into a cabinet that's completely bare. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, Mark Turgeon was out and was fired this year. The roster as it stands now, why would anyone stay? Maybe a guy like Eric Ayala, he's got 1 year left, he's a senior, maybe he would stay. But for a guy like Dante Scott, who's only played 2 years, a guy like Hakeem Hart, 2 years for him, those guys would be out in a heartbeat. Transfer portal, gone. They didn't agree to play for whatever coach would replace Turgeon. They agreed to play for Mark Turgeon. So they would be gone. The question of Darryl Morsell coming back for a 5th year and exercising that option that he has, I think no chance he comes back and plays for another coach. So this new coach coming in, he's going to have guys transferring out. He's going to have guys that committed to come play here that aren't really eager to play for him because they weren't recruited by him. Some of them may even back out. As a new head coach, you're going to need at least a year, realistically 2 years, to get your feet under you, to get your recruits in here, to build your coaching staff. And to try to be competitive like that in a Big Ten conference, which has been the past couple of years, hands down, the most competitive and toughest conference in the country, that's tough. You're not going to be competitive. So we understand that. The school doesn't want that. School doesn't want to sign up for a year or two of being bad. But as I've said in the past, you kind of have to bite the bullet. You don't really have a choice. But as we learned this week, nothing has been concrete yet, but we can read between the lines. John Rothstein, NCAA college hoops reporter, has said that Mark Turgeon has pretty much reached an extension with the Terps. We don't know the full details, how many years, if it will change any things in terms of his buyout. We don't know the details. Nothing has been confirmed by the school yet. But a day or two after we get that Rothstein report, Turgeon gets these two recruits, these two transfers to come in. I think we can all read between the lines here, right? This is a true report. The extension is real. It's just a matter of time before they announce it. And that might be tomorrow. It might be Monday that they announce this and hold a press conference of some sorts. But this goes back to what I'm saying about context. I don't think Turgeon has done anything to warrant an extension, but he doesn't have a buyout. So if you move on from him now, you have to pay him for another 2 years, plus your new coach that you bring in. And if you're looking to make an upgrade over Turgeon, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to bring in a really good head coach and get this program to where you want it to be. So financially, you're paying 2 football coaches. If you move on from Turgeon now, you fire him, you would be paying 2 basketball coaches. It's just not going to fly. So you give him a little extension here. I would imagine it's maybe just one, hopefully just one more year. Doesn't change the money at all. Just draws things out for another year that says, all right, Turge, we understand the financial situation we're in. Allow you to bring some recruits in or prevent, recruits from backing out. And we want you to be able to get transfers. So we'll give you this extra year. We'll give you that presence of stability. But I would be, if this is anything long-term, I don't know what to say. If they give him if this extension is long-term, 4 or 5 years beyond, that says to me that this school is okay with being mediocre. This is a basketball school. The football program is the one that should be striving for relevancy, not basketball. Under Mark Turgeon, this program has been relevant. It has been fairly consistent. It has been clean. No scandals. That all counts for something. That's all baseline standard stuff that you hope for from a school like Maryland as a basketball school. What do you do beyond that? Football should be the program that's striving to be relevant, consistent, good enough. Maybe once every 10 years they have a magical season and they go on a run. Basketball should be the program that's going to Elite Eights, Final Fours. Because if you're not doing that in either sport, what are you doing? No offense to soccer, no offense to baseball, lacrosse, or women's basketball for that matter. They're just not the money makers. You're either a football school or you're a basketball school. Well, enough about Turgeon. Who is coming in? Let's get excited about these moves. 2 transfers coming in. This was as of yesterday, just hours apart these come in. And I've been practicing with this guy. I've been practicing with this guy from Georgetown and how to pronounce his name. You'll have to bear with me, but I think I got it. Qudus Wahab. It's a center from Georgetown. Again, I'll say that. Qudus Wahab. I really hope I've got that. I really hope I've got that. And I said to somebody yesterday, I was talking to a friend about this edition. I said, I can't wait to hear Johnny Holiday try to pronounce this guy's name next year. He's going to be a junior this coming year. He is 6'11", 237 pounds, a legit big man. As a freshman, only saw about 14 minutes per game, averaged about 5 points a game. Took a big jump as a sophomore, playing 27 minutes a game, averaging 12 points, 8 rebounds each game, taking about 8 shots, knocking down almost 5 of them. Nice, solid big man. And you look at the one thing that the Terps were lacking in 2021 or 2020, 2021, it was a real post presence. And we'll just call this guy Q. Big Q here. He's he's going to bring that post presence back. What I didn't know at the time, I thought this would be they land this big transfer. I said, that's all they need. They've got some really good recruits coming in. You land this nice transfer. Turgeon wasn't done. And he's got a legit point guard coming in here. And this is a name that might be recognizable to some, not only because he's going to be exercising his option to play a fifth year, but Fats Russell, how about that for a name, out of Philadelphia? Fats Russell played 4 years at Rhode Island in the A-10, and from his sophomore year through this past season as a senior, he's been playing about 34 minutes a game, full starter minutes, averaging those 3 years at least 14 points a game. And in 2019, he was averaging 18 points a game. So this kid, he is a true point guard. He's a true leader, 5'10", 165 pounds. Again, might be a recognizable name, not only because he's been around the game the past 4 years, but Maryland also came across Rhode Island 2 years ago. Played them in one of that tournament on Thanksgiving weekend. They ran into Rhode Island. I think they played Rhode Island, Temple, and Marquette. Orlando Invitational, I think it was. Or maybe they didn't. They played Rhode Island. I know that. They played Rhode Island a couple years ago, and I remember hearing the name Fats Russell, and I was getting a chuckle out of that because it's just... Fats is not his birth name, in case you were wondering, but it is how he is referred to. So Fats Russell, he's not fat. He's only 5'10", 165, but he's going to give the Terps a legit point guard, ball handler presence, and a super senior. He's going to be exercising his fifth year. I guess this COVID eligibility rule, he's going to be exercising that, so he's going to bring the Terps a great veteran leadership. You combine him with Eric Ayala, who will be a senior next year. That's some good senior leadership there from Russell and Ayala. And there's more questions. Is Aaron Wiggins going to hang around and play his senior year? He's getting up there, 22, 23 years old. As a freshman coming in, we knew had the potential to become an NBA draft pick at some point. The way he played down the stretch and in the tournament, in the Big Ten tournament, and their 2 games in the NCAA tournament, on the biggest stage, he had his best games. And he finally looked like that pro alpha player. He took control of games, leading scorer. Maybe he's done enough to get himself attention in a second round of the NBA draft. And the question is, does he feel the pressure to go? Because the important thing to keep in mind here with these pro players, and especially a player like Wiggins, who has fringe NBA stuff. We're talking about him in the NBA conversation, not just the, he's going to go play in Istanbul or China, or he's got NBA conversation surrounding him. The age factor is important to remember. And for Aaron Wiggins, at his age, you look around at these guys that are getting drafted into the NBA, they're 19, 20 tops. NBA teams don't want to draft guys in the first round that are 21, 22. They feel like they're wasting years. It's about skill. It's about ability at the end of the day, but what's the common denominator amongst these lottery picks? They're 19 years old, or they're foreign players that are 18, like Luka Doncic. So I think time is working against him, and he'll have a decision to make. Does he see this as his best chance to go pro? And if his best chance is a second round pick, then by all means, man, go for it. Because if you hang around another year, maybe you have another good year, that's not going to turn you into a first round pick. Because at that point, you'll be 23, approaching 24? No NBA team, I don't care how good of a season you had, no NBA team's going to draft you in the first round at that age. Just not going to do it. So I don't think his chances of going from a second-round pick to cementing himself as a true first-round pick, the chances of that are slim if he hangs around. So he has to decide, Do I take that leap now and try to go pro? Or do I do one more year at Maryland, play out full 4 years, and come back to a team that's stacking up to be pretty deep and pretty talented? That's a question for him. So right now, I think he will decide to go pro and declare for the draft, and I think that's the right decision. I think he should do that. Daryl Morcell, another option. We're talking about Russell here exercising that fifth-year option. Morcell is up for that. So we're inferring here that Mark Turgeon's going to hang around and continue to be the head coach. We know we got these 2 transfers coming in. If Ayala's going to hang around, if Dante Scott's going to hang around, if Hakeem Hart's going to hang around, does Daryl Morcell say, I'm not going pro. Once college basketball is done for me, I'm entering the professional world. Maybe I'll work in sports in some capacity, but my life as a professional player, it's, it ends after college. So maybe for a guy like Morcell, he says, yeah, let's go for it. And if we get this COVID stuff out of the way too, and we can have a normal 2021, 2022 season, I think that would make that possibility even more likely for a guy like Morcell to say, hey, we got this good team, COVID stuff's out of the way, let's run it back one more time. And at that point, now you're looking at a really, really nice team with veteran leadership. Morcell, Russell, Ayala, things are stacking up to be pretty nice, but those would be extras. They look pretty good right now, but getting Wiggins back, getting Morcell back, maybe one of those two would be just an added bonus. And who else is anyone else going to leave? That's the bigger question. Shoal Mariel, he has entered the transfer portal. No surprise there. He's not getting minutes here. He was a lottery ticket coming into Maryland just with his size and his stature. He's a fragile giant. He doesn't have the most meat on his bones, and quite frankly, he's really raw in terms of his skills and his game. He's got the height. You can't teach that, but that's about it. That's where the compliments stop with Shoal Mariel. Wish him the best. Great kid. Heard nothing but great things about him from guys that cover Maryland closely. He's just a really down-to-earth kid. So wish him nothing but the best, but he wasn't going to get a chance with Maryland if we're being realistic. So maybe he'll get that somewhere else. But question is, who else is going to leave with him? Will it be someone significant like a Hakeem Hart, like Dante Scott? Does Dante Scott, was he rubbed the wrong way by having to play, be the 5-man in this lineup this past year? Did that rub him the wrong way? Does he want to transfer out? Because he's a legit offensive player. He's a legit scoring option. I hope they can hang on to him. He's a great college player. I think he's a guy that Maryland would really love to keep around. And I look at the progressions that Hakeem Hart made from a freshman to a sophomore last year. I would love to keep him around. So if we can keep as many guys as possible here, we can start to put together the true dream of a good college basketball team, and that starts with depth. You'd have the veterans. You'd have the young talent coming in as freshmen. You'd have that good blend. But overall, you'd have the depth. And you could run 3-4 guys, legit 3-4 guys off the bench. Unlike last year where you really only had one legit guy that you could bring off the bench, and that was Jarius Hamilton. So say what you want about the Turgeon extension. I'm indifferent about it. You got to like these moves, the 2 transfers, and the chances that they have at maybe keeping a Wiggins or a Morcell. Both of those guys. I mean, how crazy would this team be if you kept both of those guys and you had a lineup with Russell, Ayala, Wiggins, Morcell, Wahab. I mean, and then you got Hakeem Hart, Jarius Hamilton on the bench, all these talented freshmen, James Graham, Julian Reese, Ike Cornish. Can a guy at that point like Aquan Smart, who's got such raw athleticism, can he get more playing time? You would have such a deep team. A lot to be excited about. The more I talk about it, the more I'm getting excited about it. So, all right, that'll do it. I was long-winded there with episode 147. Appreciate you guys listening as always. Spread the word. Tell family, friends, coworkers, whoever it is. Tell them to subscribe on any platform you listen to podcasts. You can find the Charm City Birdwatch podcast. We'll be back here next week, episode 148. Plenty more to discuss with the Orioles. Getting closer to the NFL draft, we'll be talking about that with the Ravens. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you then.